Good morning, everyone, and welcome to all our viewers out there, and especially our Spiral Up community. We are so excited to have our special guest and friend, Eric Edmeades, joining us today. So, good morning, Joanna. Good morning, Eric. Lovely to share a little beverage with you this morning. And we are just super excited. Eric is our very first famous, we're going to go famous, yeah, guest here. For those of you who do not know Eric, he is an internationally recognized business speaker, serial entrepreneur. He's had many businesses. I know I'm always intrigued with the special effects Hollywood business, working on like Pirates of the Caribbean and Transformers. I first saw Eric on stage at Mindvalley Live in 2016, and he stood up on stage, dynamic speaker that you are, Eric, and you were talking about a program called WildFit. And I'd never heard about WildFit before, but there were hundreds of people in the audience that were jumping up and screaming and cheering about this. And I was like, okay, not only is he interesting, but what is this WildFit program that we are talking about? Now, Joanna and I have worked with Eric now for 3 years, I believe. We have done workshops on speaking, on business freedom. I know that's a big passion of Eric's, is talking to entrepreneurs, and that is a big part of our community, Eric. So welcome, and anything that I left out that you wanted to add, because you have a big resume.
One thing that I would like to everybody that is familiar and not familiar with Eric is one of the main things about Eric that make Eric so special is that Eric first walked the talk. So he's not going to talk to us anything that he didn't live and truly believe. And second is that he always put 100% of his heart. Doesn't matter if it's a podcast or if it's a workshop or if it's a live 5-day intensive event, he always put 200% of him on it. And that is one of the things that made him a unique coach, mentor, leader, and a speaker. So we are thrilled to have you here sharing your wisdom with us, Eric. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much for having me and introducing me to your guys' communities around the world too. That's super exciting.
Okay, let's start.
And we are so excited. A lot of our listeners come from various backgrounds. I know we have a lot of families that participate in our community, and I know that you're a big family man as well, with your lovely wife Elise and your beautiful daughter that we've all had the privilege to spend some time with. We also have a lot of leaders and entrepreneurs. Now, as a business owner myself, I know that during this pandemic and this sign, I've had roller coasters of emotions. I have been up and down and doing what ifs. I had to shut my business down. The bills were mounting. Things are looking up for people now, for sure. But do you have some advice for our Spiral Up community and those of business owners of how to come out of this with a momentum that's going to drive us forward or help us push ahead?
I really do. Funny enough, I think part of the clue is even in the name of your community, Spiral Up. You know, emotional states kind of operate on spirals. You can find yourself spiraling out of control and going down, or you can use some consciousness to spiral yourself up. And if we talk a little bit about biochemistry, which I think is really important here, when we become afraid, I think we push our bodies to operate in a sort of unconscious way or autopilot. The more fearful we are, the more autopilot we go to, because we need to be able to act quickly. We need to adrenalize. We need to have fast energy. You know, if you're in immediate danger, it's like you just want to go straight to instincts. You know, if you walk around a corner and there's a lion there, you don't really want to sit there and think logically about it for very long. You either want to run or fight or climb or, you know, deal with it. And so fear is designed to push you into autopilot. And with that in mind, what I think we have to remember is there's a very big difference between fear and danger. So it's possible to have danger and not be afraid. It's also possible to be afraid and there's no danger. Or it's possible to be afraid because of a perceived danger that's way off in the distance. The trouble is that if the danger is way off in the distance or theoretical, then there's a number of problems that happen. One is you've gone into autopilot mode when you could have been using logical discernment. And so all of a sudden you're going to make wrong decisions potentially. And then the other side of it is that fear-based thinking is, it ages you. It's stressful. It's pumping you full of cortisol and adrenaline, which is very hard on your health and very hard on your body. And another thing that's incredibly appropriate to today is that when you go into fear mode, when somebody goes into complete fear mode, the best metaphor I can offer for this is it's like a sci-fi metaphor. Like you suddenly realize, oh my God, we're in so much trouble. We've got to put all the power to the engines and get out of here, including the power to the shields. Just divert all power to the engines and let's get out of here. Well, in this case, the shields are our immune system. And so what happens when we get highly adrenalized and afraid is we suppress our immune function and we make ourselves more susceptible to getting infected by something and less able to fight that infection. So all of this says to me that we are in a position right now where there is some perceived danger. Some people have lost jobs. Like you mentioned, Trish, you had to close your business. Many people have found themselves facing economic danger. Other people have found themselves, unable to get outside. Like there has been a feeling of danger, but not the kind of danger that we should be using adrenalized fear for. Because the minute we start using adrenalized fear, we do everything we just described. We go to autopilot. We're not thinking. The more afraid you are, the less connection you have to empathy, the less intelligence you have, and the more tenuous your relationship with logic becomes. So if you take a look at somebody drowning in the water, they're drowning in the water. They're drowning in the water. You get in the water with them. What will they do? They will try to climb on top of you and they'll push you under the water. Why? Because they have no empathy when they're in that level of adrenalized fear. They have no logic when they're in that adrenalized fear, and their relationship with intelligence is questionable. So in that moment, they're not thinking, they're acting. And what's happening for a lot of people now during COVID-19, the pandemic, is that they're acting and not thinking. And so I think one of the best things that we can all do is make sure that we do the things that tell our bodies that we're actually safe, that we need to be aware, but not afraid. And then I think we'll find ourselves navigating this stuff a lot better.
That is fascinating. And it makes so much sense and it goes into one of the tools that you use when you are talking, and is that putting your own oxygen mask first. And what are some of those things that you believe that people can do easily every day to send a message to our brain that we are not facing a lion or a tiger and that we are actually safe, like scared, like uncertain, but safe?
Let's do it like this. Let's do the opposite first. How can we convince our body that we're in danger, right? Like, how can we do that? So there's a couple things we can do. The one is we can change the way we breathe. So again, we walk around the corner and there's a lion there. What we don't do is go, oh, look, Trish and Joanna, there's a lion. We don't do that because we don't want the lion to hear us. So what do? We go, one sharp intake of breath and then we breathe shallow so we can't be heard. So what most people are doing right now is they're spending a lot of time in front of Zoom, or they're spending a lot of time at their desk, or they're spending a lot of time in front of Netflix or something like that. And they're crunching up their lungs and they're breathing shallowly. So they're communicating to their cells that the environment might not be all that good. The other thing that they do is to create fear is to stare at things. This is a funny thing about the way the eyes work. But you see, if the three of us are out for a walk in sub-Saharan Africa and we suddenly hear a sound in the bush, we're not gazing in the direction of the sound. We're staring at it. We're not gazing. We're going, what is it? Where is it? Where is it? If we see lion tracks on the ground, we don't just gaze at them. We stare at them. We want to know how big they are. We want to know how many there are. We want to know if they have kids. We want to know what direction they're walking in. So we're looking and staring. And then once we figured out what direction they're walking, we're going to stare in that direction. When we focus our eyes intently, we tell our bodies that there is a significant threat or opportunity around, or else we wouldn't be, because you remember, when you focus your eyes completely, you let your peripheral vision go. Because what you're saying is, what's in front of me now is more important than any other threat. And so I don't need to pay attention to what's around me. I need to pay attention to what's in front of me. And so one of the things that we can do is do eye softening exercises, like going outside and breathing and gazing at the horizon and letting your eyes relax and letting your body relax. And so if we understand how we can create fear, then we can understand how to not create it or dissipate it. Now, there's some other stuff that goes along with this, and that is that your body has a series of, let's say, physical needs. And if you make sure that you address those physical needs, then you're in a place where your body will feel safer because its physical needs are getting met. In other words, if you allow yourself to get dehydrated, then your body is going to, feel like, oh my gosh, I'm dehydrated. This must be a stressful time. Maybe there's some danger around. Same with breathing and so on. So if we make sure that we're taking care of our physical needs, then that also helps us to feel a lot more safe.
The only thing that I will say is that you stare at the danger, except when you are in Africa with you. Because when I was in Africa with you, I was not staring at the sound. I was staring at where you were, so I would be able to be behind you because I knew that you will know what to do. So I was not looking for the lion. I was looking for you every single time.
Joanna, next time, don't trust me. I'm just sitting there going, look, there's a lion and I know I can outrun Joanna, so I'm okay.
That's what great friends are for.
Oh, I wouldn't leave you for the lion.
I love that you brought up the gazing. It reminds me of my 2-day trip to California. I actually had to drive horses there this year. And definitely I suffer from a lot of discomfort in my body. So I said to my physio, like, how am I going to handle this trip of sitting in a truck for 2 days? And she brought up exactly what you said. If you just think about the gazing, and even when you're driving, instead of so focused. And I got down to California after 2 days and I felt 110%. It was amazing, just that little bit of change.
Yeah, it's a very big deal. One of the places that I first really discovered this or started working with it was relative to public speaking. In fact, I did this course many years ago with a guy named David Shepard, a good friend of mine and a fabulous NLP teacher. And he did this course called Presenting Magically. And it was one of the first courses I did to kind of get involved in public speaking. And they talked a lot about eye pattern movements and how you use your eyes to generate feelings in your body. And I have now helped, thousands of people around the world change their stage fright by teaching them not to stare at the audience, but to gaze and expand their awareness. And one of the reasons is that when you are allowing peripheral information in, when you're just in this expansive place, you're ultimately communicating with your body that you're safe. And that really does change a lot. So I'm glad you had that experience.
And we have had that experience that you just described. You have taught both Joanna and I what to do when we first get on stage, and it has made a huge difference. Not that either of us had stage fright, but it really put us in a place that connected us with our audience and just lowered and grounded ourselves. And
Trish, what's so important about that is that ultimately what an audience wants from anybody is just, authenticity. That's ultimately what an audience wants. And the trouble is that the more nervous somebody is, the less authentic they're being. And so one of my goals with everybody is not just about stage fright, but just generally about comfort. The more comfortable somebody is on stage, the more comfortable they are to be themselves. And I think that same process kind of exists everywhere in life. The more comfortable you are, in your marriage, the more comfortable you are to be yourself. The more comfortable you are in your business, the more comfortable you are to be yourself. And so I think that same principle applies to what's going on now is, yes, we clearly need to be aware. We have no idea what the economy is going to be like at the end of this. We don't know what's going to change or what's going to happen. But what we do know is that we need to be smarter than we were before. We need to be ready to take action, because in all likelihood, we're going to face some kind of serious economic recession or depression during this time. And what's really crazy, and this is the great news, back in 2008, when the world fell apart financially, I had just sold my company and I just opted out of the whole thing. It didn't bother me at all. Like I had money and my money wasn't even in the markets when it crashed. Like it was like, it was all fine. And I was sitting in this resort with a friend of mine in Bali. And we looked around and all these people, the news all over the world is the world's ending, the mortgage thing is crashing, like, foreclosures are happening everywhere. And I don't want to diminish the pain and suffering that caused. I understand that a lot of people were suffering during this time. But as I looked around the pool, I saw a bunch of people drinking drinks with little umbrellas on them and, just chilling out and, having a nice time. And it suddenly dawned on me that when we see photographs, when we see, representations of what the Great Depression was like in the 30s, we only see the scary stuff. They only show us the scary stuff, right? So you got to imagine that back then there were people sitting around swimming pools drinking drinks with little umbrellas, even then. And I think the same thing's going to happen now. And so the question is, which segment of the population are we all going to choose to be in? And so what I want to suggest is that there is the economy, but then there's also subsections of economy, right down to your own personal economy. And I think that the smarter we are and the more we invest in ourselves during this time, like I see a lot of people using the lockdown as some kind of weird summer camp. Like they're just sitting around watching Hulu and Netflix and I'm blown away. Everybody's talking about putting on the COVID-15. Like the COVID-19 is one thing, but the COVID-15, that's the 15 pounds you got to put on during lockdown, right? And I'm looking at this going, for me, I haven't treated the lockdown as summer camp. I've treated the lockdown as boot camp. It's a chance to prepare for what's next. It's a chance to be ready for what's next. It's a chance to develop the skills, to create the contacts, create the products, whatever it is that we need to do to move forward. And I think that would be very difficult to do if I was in a fear position.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And it is so true what you say about the perspective. And coming from Colombia, I know by first grade, like the first experience of a lot of people from the United States and other countries about Colombia is the bad thing, the drugs and the killing. And then because I come from there, I'm like, no, there is so much more than that. And that is an amazing analogy. Let me dive us a little bit into extraordinary leadership. I think that one of the things that you excel at is at being an extraordinary leader. And I would like to have your thoughts on what is that balance between being an extraordinary leader and how your health and your nutrition is a key part of that? Because what I've been seeing out there more and more is that the first thing that people sacrifice because they are too busy being successful and extraordinary is their own health. So I don't have time to take care of me. I don't have time to cook healthy meals. So I would love for you to share with us, what is your definition of being an extraordinary leader and how we can get there? And what is that critical relationship between that and having a good health and a good nutrition as a foundation?
Well, let's step back to I don't have time. I don't have time to take care of my health. I don't have time to prepare healthy food and so on. Those are the kind of people who run out of gas on the highway. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like you're driving along and you see your gas is low and you're like, oh, but I don't really have time right now. I don't really have time. I don't really have time. I don't really have time. And the next thing you know, it takes you an hour and a half to get a gas can and get somebody to come in because you ran out of gas. And many people have had that experience. And once they've had the experience once, they're a little less inclined to do it again, but they still drive to the very last fumes that are in the car. And what I want to suggest is that's not a good idea. There's a lot of reasons it's not a good idea, but one of them might be that the gas station you were expecting might not be there, might have closed, it might not be open. But then the other thing is that you might also find another issue, and that is that, the last gas that's in the tank, especially in older cars, is the dirtiest gas. And so if you run it right down to the very end, you're running the grossest gas through the engine where, so it's not good for your car to do that. Well, why am I saying all this? It's not good for your body to do that either. When you say, I don't have time, when somebody says, I don't have time to be healthy, I don't have time to exercise, I don't have time for that. What they're basically saying is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take from my last 15 years of life and I'm going to live it now instead, because I'm going to have a horrible last 15 years of my life because I decided I didn't have time and I was just going to go through the drive-through this one time, which is actually just not this one time because I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And then I might not do it the next, but I'm going to do it the day after that. And then I'm going to drive into Tim Hortons and order myself a double-double in Canada. It's like, what I'm saying here is that You do have time. Everybody has the same amount of time. And if you see anybody out there getting results and you go, it just seems like, I'll never forget my very good friend Carl coming up to me one day and he says, Eric, he goes, how are you doing this? And I said, doing what? And he goes, you're growing your business. Your business is growing well. You travel all the time. You're off to Africa on your wildlife safari photography and all that stuff. And you're like, and you're working out over here and you're going for long and you're running the marathon, the London Marathon. You have more time. He said, you got more time than me. How are you doing all this? And I said, well, look, as far as I know, we all get the same amount of time. We get the same number of hours and minutes every day. And, you know, the only time when our time is different has to do with how well we live our lives and how lucky we are in terms of our longevity. But everything else is we get the same amount of time. It's how we invest that time that makes all the difference. And here's the crazy thing. When somebody doesn't have time to exercise or take care of their health, it's a false economy because it means they're going to be sick. So that means they're going to lose like a week. So I'm saying, what if you just invested like an hour a day to your maintenance of your body, an hour a day to taking care of your body's physical needs? And if you did that, then that means that you don't have to get the flu every year. Like it doesn't have to be that way. And so that's kind of my first message about that. And that to me ties right into leadership. Because one of my little expressions, I don't know if I made this up or I heard it somewhere. It doesn't matter, but this is one of my favorite expressions. You have no business as a leader until you can lead yourself first. If you can't lead you, you have no business trying to lead anybody else. That's just how it is. And so what that says to me is that I have to create in myself the ability to lead myself. And I am able to do that. I'm not all the time. I have moments where my body rebels and says, no, we're watching Netflix tonight. And I'm like, oh, well, all right, I give up. I mean, you can't miss the Ozarks, right? You gotta, so, you know, but then I also have a higher consciousness. And years ago, I developed the skill of keeping promises to myself. So I absolutely keep promises I make to myself. So, you know, I have a board here in my office. And when I come in the morning, I take a look and go, here's all the stuff that I know I need to get done today. And then I take the Post-it note and move some of them into the promise box. If I promise, by the way, I don't do that every day. I don't make promises every day. Some days I just work through what I'm working through and it's fine. But when I see something coming up and I'm feeling myself resisting it, I move it into the promise box, I get it done. Well, what I'm really trying to say is none of this so far is about leadership, except all of this is about leadership. Because if you can't get yourself to take action on what you want, then how are you going to get other people to take action on what you want them to take action on, unless you become dictatorial and threatening and you become a stick-based leader? What I want to do is I don't want to be a carrot and stick leader. I want to be an example leader. And so the best way to be a leader is to be the change you want to see in the people around you, I think. And that's sort of my thought process. But I'll also add this. I don't always think of myself as some, you know, I find that whenever I try to be a leader, like whenever I'm like, I'm going to lead now, that's when it goes sideways for me. But what I found is that if I simply show up and I'm there to serve, then everything works a whole lot better. And one of the reasons that works better for me is because I have attracted in my life some really great leaders, and they do a better job of leading than even I do. And that means that, for example, as you've seen, you know, coming to Africa, I'm not the leader of that trip. I might be the leader in the sense that I organize it, but I have people taking care of things because they are the leader in the role that they have. And that to me has been a real key. If you look at the way my business is run, Andrew is a significantly better leader than I am. I don't know, maybe if there's a bunch of, you know, if there's an armed incursion and a bunch of people are breaking into the house, maybe I'd be a better leader in that situation, maybe. Or, you know, if there's a particular project, I might be a better leader. But I would say there's a difference between being an emergency leader in a given situation and being a day-to-day consistent leader. And in that case, I think Andrew is much better than I am. And that's one of the other key things to leadership is, I think, identifying leaders that you can lead.
Wow, that was a pack of golden nuts for our community. I love how you tied it. Really love how you say you cannot lead others if you cannot lead yourself. And that is very aligned with what I think you are. And then you are the incarnation of walking the talk. And I think that reflects on that leadership part. And the other one that goes a lot into our community and the Spiral Up is that sense of sprouting up together and growing together. And it's that concept of a leader being able to find other leaders. I remember a phrase that says that a leader is the one that helps others to shine, not the one that is trying to shine itself. So thank you for that. That was amazing.
You're welcome. I really like what you said about that, is that you know, at the risk of bringing politics into the conversation.
Go ahead.
Risk of that, I would suggest to you that really, for example, in America, anybody who really wants to be president probably shouldn't be. You know, like I think that these days, the person who's screaming the loudest to be the leader is doing that for the wrong reasons. They're doing it for significance or personal, gain or what have you. And I think the way the American political system was set up is it was originally designed as it was like your responsibility to go and be to sit in the House of Representatives. It was somebody's responsibility to become the president. And now it's just different thing. And I think it's important because we are not, in my opinion, seeing great examples of leadership from for those of you who think this is an anti-Trump thing. It's not an anti-Trump thing. It's an anti-current, political state thing, and I think that more and more what we are going to need, like, this is a bit crazy, but I really like the series Designated Survivor on Netflix. It was Kiefer Sutherland, who's like the Secretary of the Agriculture, and then one day there's a big terrorist attack, and the president and the vice president and the Speaker of the House and everybody in the line of succession is killed in this attack. And the last guy in the world who's in the line, he's like 26th in the line of succession, ends up becoming president. But guess what? Because he didn't want to be there. He did it out of a sense of responsibility. And I know it's fiction. I know that Tom Clancy wrote a similar fiction, but I think there is something to that, is that if somebody craves the position of leadership, they're not yet really ready to be a leader, I think.
That is so true. Or they're going to become a manager and not a leader. That is something that is very common. Yeah. Amazing. Trish?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of people in our community, and as well in my horsey world, that feel very isolated in their businesses and very protective, especially now. It's like the businesses were shut down, we're coming back into work, but how do they really reach out and find the leaders and find the people that are going to support them? And really, I guess the mind shift of, I don't really need to do it alone.
So you've probably heard me talk about this before, but I think that a lot of times the troubles that we have today are because of thought processes and patterns and patterns of behavior that we developed in school. And that's because our school systems around the world right now were really designed for the industrial age. They were designed to train people to sit at a desk and wait for the bell to ring and then go to the next thing and shift work. And they were really designed that way. And they weren't designed to stimulate creativity. And they certainly weren't designed to create or to stimulate collaboration. And so in school, we were taught very clearly that if you got help with something, you were cheating. And in the odd time when you were given a group project and it wasn't cheating, the children were basically, at least in the way I went to school, and many people I've spoken to about this have agreed that that was their experience, is that yes, they were given a project where they had to work with the other student, but now they're all jockeying for who did the most. So even within their collaboration, they're being forced into a strange sense of competition. So, and then the next thing that got onto that is that we were also taught that if something's really easy to do, you don't get rewarded for it. And so children are taught in school to make things look harder than they really are, which is one of the reasons so many people think they're nervous of public speaking. Because if you get up in front of the stage and you're just comfortable and you're like, you do the presentation and you make people laugh and so on, everybody goes, oh, nice job. Nice job. But if you walk up on stage and you cry and you're upset and you're freaking out and then you do the presentation, what kind of praise do you get afterward? Teacher comes and gives you a hug. Everybody tells you how great you were. So you get all this reward. The harder you make it look, the more reward you get. So when you combine all these things that I just talked about and recognize that most of us spent 12 years facing that conditioning, then it begins to explain why entrepreneurship seems so difficult for so many people, because they insist on doing things for themselves. They insist on focusing on the things that they find most difficult, because that's what we were taught in school. Look, when you got your report card from school, and let's say you were really good at, say, literature, but you weren't so good at math, it didn't say, oh, doing great at literature, spend more time on this. It didn't say that at all. It said, oh, having problems with math, spend more time on this. So, you know, we're being taught to focus on the hardest things. We're being taught not to collaborate, that collaboration is cheating, and that you won't get the full credit if you collaborate. I mean, this is what we were taught for 12 years. So now we go off into entrepreneurship. What do? We immediately take on the hardest stuff first. Like we're like, I'll do the hard stuff. When really the greatest entrepreneurs in the world found a way of building a business where they got to do the easiest stuff. They got to do the stuff they loved to do. And in a sense, I feel like the best entrepreneurs in the world are lazy. They're lazy because they're like, I'm not going to do the hard stuff. I'm going to find somebody who finds the hard stuff easy and that they like it. And if I can build a company where everybody is doing the easy stuff, because whatever stuff there is to do, somebody finds it easy. Somebody finds it enjoyable. And so if you can build a business where everybody's doing easy stuff, where everybody's doing stuff that comes naturally to them, where everybody's doing stuff that they enjoy, you have an incredibly different business than in the old school where it's like, I don't care if you like it, do it anyway. And so I think that right now, we need to break some of those paradigms more than ever. We need to get over it ourselves, and we need to be willing to collaborate. We need to be willing to ask people to do the hard stuff when it's not the hard stuff for them. Like, it's crazy. I used to be all like, oh, I have to do the accounting myself. I have to get involved in that. Why? Well, because it's awful work and I'm just too nice a person to ask somebody else to do it. It's disgusting. Why would I do that? Well, hey, guess what? It turns out that there are people, I don't know what happened to them. I don't know if they got dropped when they were babies, but they like doing accounting. I don't understand. I don't know how it happened. It's like brain damage. I'm kidding. It's just that there are people with different desires. And so one of the things, Trish, I would suggest is that as people start branching out now, they should be really like, one of the projects I suggest they do is take a look at all the roles in the business and take a look at all the different things that are happening in the business and grade them in terms of their own enjoyment. And then what they should do is the stuff they enjoy the least, that's the first place they should start getting help. I don't like doing that. Let's find somebody who does. I don't like doing this. Let's find somebody who does. And by the way, in the horsey community, you already have this to some degree, because what do? You don't like scooping the poop. So you get some kid who wants some, stable time, and you get them to do it. But why aren't you doing that with the accounting or the marketing, right? Because that, for me, that's like scooping poop. I don't want to do that. I want to get somebody else to do it. And so I think if we can focus on building collaborations based on core competencies and passion, then all of a sudden business becomes a whole lot easier. And I think we're going to need more and more of that now. When things get hard, you don't want to do the hard things. When things get hard, you want to do the things that are comfortable and easy for you. And you want to recruit people around you to do the things that are comfortable and easy for them. And then you have a very, very different business.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you mentioned that. I do have a CFO of my company. I hired a virtual assistant. And last week I hired a personal assistant. Woohoo, look at me go. Like, it's taken me a while, but I got to let go of that stuff, the control, but oh my gosh, so much freer. Someone who loves to color code things and loves to file, and who is going to give me my schedule and say, you need to do that. So I can make less decisions on a daily basis, so I can do what I do really well and be more creative and come up with the ideas and start to implement them. So
good stuff.
Yeah.
I think that we learned that, when was that? Last year in September. Like, one of Eric's, I think that signature programs for entrepreneurs is Business Freedom Experience. And he go very deep into these, guys. So if any of you are feeling that overwhelming of, I hate accounting, but I cannot find somebody to do it, we will highly recommend you to go and find that program. It's a 5-day transformational program where he's going to teach you actually how to become free. And pay attention, guys, to what he said. He didn't say, I'm going to do the easy part and the fun part, and I'm going to screw others for them to do the not fun thing. He said, we all can find the thing that we have fun with and find easy. So the business is built into a win-win relationship that is absolutely genius for the sustainability and the impact to society and the world. So amazing. We are getting close to the end of our talk. I have one more thing that I would love to ask you.
Sure.
Because I want to share a couple of things a couple of programs and things that you are doing that I want our community to look for. The last one is around nutrition and how, with all the situation that is coming next. So now that we are getting into the second wave of this new way to live, a lot of things that are triggering is emotional eating. And is that how we cover our stress and our emotions with eating, and sometimes not eating very good. So I would like to have your input on that and your takeaway on how people can start addressing that before it gets out of control, because that is one of those, like you were saying at the beginning, that is one of those spiral down that if you don't correct it soon, then the spiral down just suck you down.
So I think what I would suggest is, look, here's one of the scary things about the pandemic and the lockdown is that anything that you do for 15 to 21 days every single day becomes locked in as a habit to some degree. Your neurology changes, your biochemistry changes, and you become addicted to the behavior, and that's how it becomes a habit. So a lot of people have spent 2 months now doing a lot of things that they wouldn't really want to be doing every day. In other words, they've been eating a lot of comfort foods on a regular basis, or they've been watching a lot more TV than they normally would, or they've been, watching cute kittens on YouTube for more hours than they should, or doing too much TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And so they've been creating these habits that they're going to have a bit of a hard time breaking at the end of it. And so one of the things that I've been really trying to work with people on is identifying the behaviors that they want to keep when this is all over. And if you want to keep a behavior when this is all over, then what you need to do is start having that behavior now. And so rather than talking to people about what they should stop doing, I want to talk to them about what they should start doing. The reason the diet industry fails people so badly is, well, there's many reasons, but one of the reasons is that they're based around rules-based thinking, where it's like, I'm going to take a bunch of stuff away from you and put you into a feeling of restriction and a feeling of lack and all that kind of stuff. When what we really want to do is put people into a place of building their self-esteem, a place of abundance, and making them feel better about themselves. So what I would suggest right now during the pandemic is, instead of focusing on what not to do or what not to eat, what we should focus on is, as I mentioned earlier, the core physical needs of the body and addressing those core needs really effectively. So I'll run through them really quickly, and I think we can finish on that note. I think we'll run a little over time, but I think it's important enough that it's important that this is valuable for people. Before I begin, think about it like this, guys. If you're about to go in your car on a very, 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 very long journey, what are you going to do before you go on the long journey? What are you going to do with the car before you go on the long journey?
You just prepare it. You make sure that tires are good, fuel is good, oil is good, that you have everything that you
antifreeze is good, auto fluid searing is good. You're going to make sure that the car is in the best possible shape before you go on this really, really long journey. And so we're about to go on a very long journey. It's called post-pandemic recovery. And as we go into post-pandemic recovery, it's a long journey. We don't know how long it'll take. I think we'll see an immediate economic bump over the next 3 months, a little bit of a V, a little bit of a bounce up, because there's a bunch of pent up money. People haven't been going on vacation and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's still going to take years to fully climb all the way out. So we have this long journey. So we got to prepare the car. Well, in this case, the car is the body. So if we know with the car, we have to make sure it's full of gas and it's got oil and antifreeze and auto and braking fluid and all that kind of stuff, tire pressure is right and so on. So what do we need to be doing? Well, in our case, we need to take a look at some, core physical needs that we need to address within the human body. And so we teach this in WildFit, as you guys know, that you have these 8 physical needs. And if you address these 8 physical needs, then your body will be in better shape to take care of you. And they're in order of survival. So the first one here being air. That concept seems a little like wasted on some people. Like, what do you mean air? Like, of course we need air. I'm breathing all the time. No, we need to breathe properly, deeply, in a way that communicates with our cells that we're safe. And we need to be breathing good quality air, like getting outside. A lot of people have been trapped inside their homes, and guess what? They're not getting enough a good quality air. So it's important that people do some breathing. Actually, I'll even show you real quick. There are a number of really great breathing exercises that people can take on. Of course, we've got the 5-5 breathing by WildFit. There's the wake up breathing that we've got here. Anybody can screenshot this and take these breathing exercises, the 20-20 breathing, the breath of fire. And there's tons of great breathing exercises that people can find for themselves on YouTube. So it's really important that we get out there and we breathe, because we need oxygen. We need it. And we also need to communicate with our bodies that we're healthy and we're safe. The next one is water. We got to stay hydrated. Absolutely crucial and important that we stay hydrated. We should be drinking, a lot of water, and also eating a lot of water-rich foods. The next physical need of the body is sleep. And, it's interesting about sleep because, we're sleeping all the time, but we have to sleep the best quality sleep we can. Here's one change I'd like everyone to make. Stop using an alarm to wake up and use an alarm to go to bed. Set the alarm for 9:30. Oh, look, it's bedtime, and go to bed. And then you won't need an alarm to wake up in the morning. So it's really important that we get really solid, good quality sleep and rest. And it helps with the repair of our bodies. It helps with the assimilation of memories and thoughts and all this kind of stuff. It's really, really key that we do that. So next physical need of the body is energy. Now, this is one that most of us are not messing up too terribly badly. And what I mean by that is that most of us actually have enough energy. The problem where we're messing it up is which energy. And so most people are burning carbohydrates on a regular basis, which is hot burning and aging and stressful and only ever meant for short-term bursts. And yet we're burning it all the time. What we want to do, especially during times of stress like this, is move ourselves to being more of a fat burning metabolism. And if we can do that, we have our immune system is better, our energy is better, our moods are better, and everything is better. Next physical need of the body is movement. And I get that my slides look a little funny and distorted, but that's the way it is. Movement's really important for all the reasons that we know. Yes, you don't want to lose your muscles. You got to keep your bones strong by using them. And what causes bones to get stronger is impact and torquing them. When you lift a weight, it's not just the muscle that's getting exercise, it's the bone that's in there carrying the But there's also your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like your cardiovascular system. So you need to be moving to move lymph around your system. In nature, we always had to move a minimum amount all the time anyway. But of course, now we can just sit around and watch Netflix all day and not move lymph around our systems, and then wonder why it is that we don't always feel as good as we could. Next one here is non-energy nutrients. So we've already talked about getting energy, but the next thing we have to look at is the non-energy nutrients. And that is actually, let me see if I've got those here. The non-energy nutrients. We have to be looking at vitamins, minerals, fats, aminos, sugars, water, and fiber. And these are the non-energy constituents that we get from food. And it's really important that we get those things. And of course, for a lot of us, what's going on is we're forgetting that there's a real serious truth in the concept of you are what you eat. Quite literally, you are what you eat. You eat something, your body burns some of it for energy, but then it also takes other bits of it and tries to rebuild you. And we begin to wonder, I see what people are eating, and when you're rebuilding your body out of that, it's no wonder that your body looks like that or feels like that. Again, I want to be clear. I don't think it's that person's fault. I think it's the food industry's fault. It's just that there comes a point in time where it doesn't really matter whose fault it is. It matters whose responsibility it is to get it right. The next one is sunlight. Absolutely crucial for your health and your immune system. It's absolutely crucial. You need sunlight to produce vitamin D. And I know, Trish, I know you live in the Lower Mainland. I'm sorry about that. You do know what I mean by sunlight, right? Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Just kidding. But here's the thing that's really important to remember is that if you go outside and it's light outside, even if you don't have direct sun on you, for people who live in places like Vancouver, Seattle, London, and so on, when you go outside, even if there isn't direct sunlight on you, the light is sunlight. And it's really important that we get out and get that sunlight on our skin. And then the last physical need of the body is touch. Physical touch. It's an imperative need of the human body. And the more we get of it, the better. It's good for our immune system. It keeps our cortisol levels down and so on. And so, Joanna, what I would really say is this. The degree to which we satisfy those needs is the degree to which our body will be forgiving about the times that we're messing around. So look, if somebody wants to go and have themselves a Cinnabon, I don't think that's a great idea. I think it's terrible for the pancreas. I think it's horrible for the digestive system. I think it's totally wrong for the moods. But, at the end of the day, if you've been satisfying all the other needs properly and you want to have the odd treat like that, well, your body will be better able to cope with it. But the trouble for most people is that they're substituting their physical needs for the treat. That's where we want to change. Start with getting the needs met. Then we can talk about the other stuff, because here's the final piece that you guys both know so well. If you get those needs met, you don't even want the Cinnabon anymore.
That is an amazing. Thank you so much for allowing us to go a little over and share all that. And that goes down into the conclusion of the podcast. And guys, how many of you love Eric? Either if you are already a fan or if you're a new fan, please go Eric Edmeades on Instagram and on Facebook and follow his business pages, Business Freedom, Speaker Nation, Get WildFit. He, like what you saw today, is what you see all the time with him. He's always over delivering value and knowledge and passion. So please show him your love in the comments below and share with him how much he impacted you with this episode. It was phenomenal. And I want to actually invite all of you to go and look for his programs. I know that he's really fast on adjusting his business. So he's already moving some of the live events into online events, and he's preparing a speaking academy online later this year. And he had a business freedom experience later this year that are like just mind blowing. And he also have June 8th, we will have a special program that we are launching, and it's a global reset, 14-day reset with WildFit, where he and Ariel Aurora are going to be co-leading and leading this process and this mentally mindset change to help all of us to get ready to actually do more of the right things and feel the right needs, so we are better prepared. So if you want to be part of that, make a comment below and we will share the link, and I will be working with them on supporting this reset, because his desire and his passion, like Trish and I, are helping the world and making the world a better place. And this is one of the ways that we are trying to do it. So Eric, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Trish, I don't even have words.
Yeah, it's you've made a huge transformation, I know, in my life. And if it wasn't for you, Joanna and I never would have met and become best friends. So, you know, it's all interconnected. And one day we will get Zoe on a pony at my place. So
we will.
Yeah, we will. So we love you lots, and thank you so much for coming on. And for those people who are a little more curious about the WildFit, Joanna and I are going to go live on Friday to talk more about that program. So for sure, comment below, and we will see you on my Facebook page on Friday to learn a little bit more about WildFit as well. So thank you so much, Eric. Thank you, Joanna. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you both.
And
Hey guys, thanks so much for creating this space. It's been really a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, guys. Keep spiraling up one day at a time. Thank you so much, Eric. Bye-bye.
All right, we are clear from the